Minute. There we go. Welcome. We are back, and the comments are wow. Good evening. Thank you. How you doing? Uh, Clapping. Appreciate that. Wow, flooding. All right. How you doing, Miss Florence? Good evening to everyone. Wow, pouring in. Was not expecting this much. Whew. Last one, best one. But I am your host of 2050 and Beyond. Right there, Jaimir. And I am a freshman lead communications major at Howard University. If you couldn't tell. And I also am the broadcast technician / virtual village 2020 influencer, et cetera, for Clever Communities in Action. It's going great. I'm loving everything here. And 2050 and Beyond is our show where on Tuesdays we like to take a piece of historical matter or a subject, and in this case it was Pan-Africanism, and after that we sort of build we contextualize it and build a historical framework for it that we'll work with. So on Tuesday we went through a very brief history of the ideology of Pan-Africanism, which we described as uniting all African peoples so their material needs may be met. And I think that that's the definition we ran with. And not only did we run with it, but we built off of it. And we spoke about connecting HBCUs and the continental African world, along with the Caribbean and South American African world. And we also expanded upon using cultural energies as well to sort of, affirm ourselves, which is how we ended on Tuesday's show, because we understood that the first step to, having that universal Pan-Africanism, that global Pan-Africanism that we were talking about, was just to let everyone understand and love their Blackness, so then we can move forward with that. And it took a lot of decolonizing the mindset and the mentalities of people before we could push into Pan-Africanist ideology. We also paid homage to Assata Shakur. Enough said on that one, it's Assata, and we highly recommend her book because this is Clever Communities in Action. So we always got to come through with the literature. And it's been a great year. It is not lost on me that this is the last day of the year. So I really appreciate you for coming out and staying with us. And, it wouldn't be a great year. It wouldn't be a great CCIA production if we didn't have Shania just sort of start us off right. So that's what we got here.
Greetings, virtual villagers. My name is Shania, and do you know what time it is? It's affirmation time! Time to remind ourselves how great we are. So everybody, repeat after me. I am smart. I have purpose. I am confident. I am valuable. My voice is worthy of being heard. I'm an asset to my family, school, and community. I respect myself and I respect others. I am beautifully made inside and out. I love my beautiful hair and I love my beautiful brown skin. I am more than enough. Great job, virtual villagers. Can I get a virtual high five? Great job. And always remember how fantastic you are.
Absolutely. I know that you guys were feeling that one coming in with the amens on that. That right there is Shania. Shania has been with us for so long, and we always give Shania her flowers. And that's why we want to start the night, especially with the Pan-Africanist tradition right going we have here, because it is Kwanzaa, and right now we are celebrating Kuumba, which is creativity for those who aren't familiar with Kwanzaa. And I'm just trying to bring the creativity tonight for y'all. I mean, the bar is set really high with Shania coming afterwards. And now, trying to follow up after that, we have the segment of the night where we sort of look within our union. And as Ms. Starr says, Kuumba, indeed. So with Kumba in mind, we are going to take a little trip across the world and around the diaspora a bit, just to round out the year and more so round out the week. So right now we're going to start in Haiti. They're celebrating their 217th independence anniversary. Always want to start off on a high note. Salute to all of my Haitian people out there. And if you are Haitian, or you know anyone who's Haitian, make sure to give them their props, because they most definitely earned it, and they earned it in style. A great book regarding that is The Black Jacobins, also by CLR James. I told you this is CCA, so we're gonna hit you with literacy tonight. If it's got a book tied to it, then we're gonna make sure you get it. As well as Black Spartacus did that as well, relating to the Haitian Revolution. But going a little bit more into it, the country of Libya saw the Libyan and Russian foreign ministers speak this Wednesday in Moscow in order to encourage the two rival governments within Libya to end the years-long conflict. And the two governments signed a permanent ceasefire in October, and the country has been in turmoil since the assassination of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. So we see that the Libyan situation is still going a little bit here. And okay, so we do have some Haitian folk out there. How y'all doing? Much props to y'all. Big salute to you. Much love to all my Haitian folk. And so that is Libya there. Then moving on to the African continent, we have the Sputnik 5 COVID-19 vaccine has begun being used in the country of Guinea, specifically in Conakry, where the governmental officials have been the first to receive the vaccination. But the country has also placed orders to receive doses from the People's Republic of China as well, in order to go on the offensive in protecting people from the virus. So they're not sitting back anymore, because the previous Ebola outbreak in the area and region has them on the offensive, and they want to make sure that they nip this thing in the bud. And the second wave of COVID is definitely hitting the African continent. We saw in Nigeria as well as South Africa. So these COVID vaccines definitely coming in, and they're trying to pump them out. Then moving all the way to the Sudan, we had the UN peacekeeping mission in the Darfur region of Sudan announced that it will be ending soon. This has left many in the area feeling ambivalent or anxious due to the continued clashes within the area and within the region. After the removal of Omar al-Bashir in a military coup, the country's had a turbulent region and a turbulent government as well, and a turbulent road to rebuilding due to the oppositional forces in the area clamoring for their own independence, as well as clamoring for power over the country. So we wish a lot of peace over the Darfur people, as well as the Sudanese people, understanding that the UN peacekeepers have a very questionable history and track record of maintaining the peace and keeping the peace over there. So we just wish safety upon all of my people over there. And moving on, back to America, but not just America. This is a throwback to our Black Media Week. I know Manyang has been definitely talking about movies with me, so this was for you, Manyang. But the highly anticipated Disney movie Soul, HU. That's right. A lot of people in the comments right now just happy to see you guys showing up. That's great to see. As you know, this is a full Bison Brigade as we got going on. But we do have an HBCU that we will shout out later, so make sure you stick around after our discussion for that one. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, because we already see we got people rolling in, and we just want to make sure more people roll in and out. And but like we were saying, the highly anticipated Disney movie Soul came out on Christmas Day, left many people feeling rather thankful. And the movie, headlined by Jamie Foxx, served as a reminder that we should appreciate the little things in life, but also remember that those who have transitioned are still with us, as long as we maintain their memory. So we want to thank Jamie Foxx for that one. Thank the people at Disney, and Soul really just showed Black people in a whole new light when it came to animation on a big screen, like a blockbuster like that. So really good to see Soul. I know a lot of people were feeling really introspective, and now I'm in like this sort of like weird halfway between actually starting a jazz band with my friends, and I'm trying to figure out whether I'll play the trumpet or the saxophone. But I feel like I could pull off a trumpet, but also a saxophone speaks to me. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'll let you guys know sometime next year. Soon though, it'll happen. Then we'll have our own band, have our own records, and then we can just add that to the resume. Might even perform for you. And moving on from that, earlier this week, the Department of Justice had declined to file charges against the Cleveland officers who had murdered 12-year-old Tamir Rice back in 2014. The federal department claims that the video footage from the shooting was of poor quality and couldn't help prosecutors come to a conclusion on what had happened during the murder. So we understand that the Rice family, we send them much love, we send them much compassion and prayer, and we just hope that they can continue to seek justice. And Tamir's murder means a lot to people, especially people around the age of like myself in the class of 2020, because Tamir was supposed to graduate with us, but his life was cut extraordinarily short. And we hope that there will be justice soon for him. But we do know that you are always in our prayers, always in our memories, brother. So we salute you and we give you your props. And you are most definitely a bison with us. And not just a bison, but you're also a fellow HBCU student. Either way, Tamir, you still with us. We carry your name proudly on our banners. And the other news that was released a little bit earlier today was Daniel Dumile, known by his stage name MF Doom, had made transition back in October 31st of 2020 at the age of 49. His family had released a statement announcing Mr. Dumile's passing earlier this Thursday, and we send many prayers and strength to the Dumile family as well. As of now, we don't know the cause of death because the family haven't released that information, but we just wish them strength and peace. And that right there is just a sort of a wrap up for what we had going on in the last week or so. But the things are still turbulent. Things are still moving. I know the Breonna Taylor bust was vandalized earlier this week as well. But as we go into 2021, we understand that this has been a rather struggleful year for many of us, but it's also been a rather prosperous year for us as well. And for those of us who have made transition during this year, we have not lost them. They're just dancing a little bit earlier than us, but they got the whole thing set out and ready for us to go. And it is up to us to make sure that we continue to just live fruitful lives and great lives and just make it the best that we can and live in our own interest. So that way, when we do meet those who transition, that we'll be able to actually let them know everything that they'd missed and that they'd watched along. So I know I got some people I look forward to seeing soon in that transition to dance with, and I know some of us have them as well. So we want to give a salute to everyone who made a transition and much love and much respect. But we also want everyone to know going into 2021 that while this year was a struggle for many of us, we're still here and we still got to keep things pushing and we still got to make things work. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for just being able to fellowship with us tonight and staying safe on New Year's Eve. And coming into 2021, I look forward to working with everyone, seeing everyone, and just smiling and loving with everybody. But now we have a word from our sponsors.
Buying or selling a home doesn't have to be difficult. At the James Allen Group, we work tirelessly to get families into homes and to get our listings sold quickly at the best price. James Allen, our principal broker, has over 30 years of experience as a realtor. As a U.S. Navy veteran, his knowledge of Hampton Roads and its community is a vital tool in meeting the home buying needs of military families. If you're ready to buy or sell your home, contact the James Allen Group at 757-449-8322. Sign up today for our free home buyer or seller seminar at jamesallengroup.com.
Wow, I'm getting rusty off that one. I am getting rusty on that one. I am very rusty. My fault. Just y'all got me nervous, man. Like it's like 13 people under 20 minutes. That's big. Like that's big. Give yourself a hand, as well as make sure you give us a like and share too. Because anyway, this right here is the part for those of us who missed Tuesday or those of us who need a refresher and a recap. Now, usually I would have my friends, my Joseph Surgeon III and OBR Okiki the first, with me as we sort of recap what happened on Tuesday. But I think that I was good off it. Like they told me, they was like, Ja, you've been doing this for a while, and you just as qualified as us history majors to sort of do this. So they trusted me with that, and they believed in me to be able to go fly solo on this one. So I appreciate them heavily, and man, I'm tearing up a little bit just thinking about those guys, but they'll be back soon. So on Tuesday, we started things up as we always do with the welcoming. Then they did tell me that. They really did tell me that. Absolutely. Like in paper and everything. They definitely told me that word for word, word for word. They said that I could definitely do their major in my sleep. That's how good I was at this. So that, like, they did. So we opened things up with a welcome. We opened things up with a Shania's affirmation, as we always do. Then we sort of gave a brief overview of Assata Shakur. Then we went into Pan-Africanism as an ideology. As I mentioned earlier, it is the sort of, to keep it simple, as Brother Malcolm would say, is the uniting of all African people into, so Pan, all African people, uniting all African people in order to make sure that our material needs are met. What material needs are simple. It's food, water, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. That right there, just those 6 things right there. And that is all Pan-African is. And we understand that we are a very nationalistic people because we're a people full of culture. And that's, pay attention to that word culture, because I think it'll really be a big staple in our conversation coming soon. But we're a nationalistic people with our own distinct cultures, and we understand that it is a uniting of these different nations and these different cultures in under the common banner of being African, that commonality tying us all together to make sure we are no longer dependent on Europe or the West as a whole. So no America, no Canada, no France, England, Spain, Italy, Portugal, nah. And that way we can make self-determination. That's another Kwanzaa, tying it in, told you, for everyone. And we spoke about C.L.R. James, Booker T. Washington, who helped finance the early Pan-African conferences, as well as Marcus Garvey. If you were talking about Pan-Africanism, then you can't really not mention Garvey on that one. So we sort of got into that one, and it was pretty good. And then we just had sit down in a chat, and we spoke, and we elaborated a little bit on Jody's idea of, being able to study abroad at an African university or a university in Africa in order to, in a partnership with HBCUs, in order to link things and further strengthen our, diasporic bonds, as well as we spoke about cultural powers. But we really wanted to touch on decolonizing the mind here, understanding that Blackness is a mindset, to get people ready for Pan-Africanism. And now, with that remark there, I have a couple of guests that I want to bring on with me. So for one, you've seen this guy before. He's been here a couple times, and I'm pretty excited to have him back because it's kind of lonely being up here. Like, the screen is so big, like you can't even really see anything. And if you didn't notice, I'm back in my old spot. So if you were with us as a virtual village influencer, then you understand the spot well. But if you're a little bit new, you're like, where's Jai at? Where's all the paintings and black and white rooms? Trust me, we'll be back soon. But this right here is our friend Solomon Brooks. How you doing, brother?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but the other person we have on here is a friend of yours who goes to Morgan State. Could you tell me a little bit about them?
Not Morgan. I'm Morgan Jackson.
Yeah.
Jackson.
Yeah, out here.
It's okay, bro. It's okay.
I'm looking rusty, but it's good to see we got people from Jackson, because I was tired of that whole DMV area we had with Howard.
Yeah, so, it was like a whole conglomerate, got to break it up a little bit.
Yeah, people were starting to say that we were just, pushing Howard to the forefront.
Of course not. It's all HBCUs.
Always, man. This is a Pan-HBCU experience. Make sure you tell your
Pan-African.
Absolutely. But could you tell me a little bit about your friend Kerrigan, who goes to Jackson State a little bit?
She's actually Haitian herself. You shouted out Haitian 217th Independence Anniversary.
All right.
Shout out her. She's a history major.
All right.
Mississippi. Senior, going to Jackson State University.
Woo! Welcome.
She's muted.
That's crazy how you came in muted like
You
that.
came in muted.
All that energy, and then
Okay.
there it is.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Yes, I
Hey,
am Kerrigan. I go to Jackson State, a senior history major, Haitian. Yes, I was back here in the waiting room. Just yes, every time you shouted out Haiti, just yes. Um, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be invited here with Solomon. I'm glad to represent Mississippi and Jackson State. Take it up a little bit.
absolutely, absolutely, man. We just happy to have you on here. We had the whole like WWE, and you got fans all over.
Yeah,
You know
they
what I'm
came
saying?
in on John
Fans,
Cena. I'm sorry.
people coming in like this is dope. Like you,
She brought the,
Yeah,
the village along, bro.
absolutely.
I brought some
Telling you.
people.
She brought all of Mississippi with her. Like this is what we needed. Like,
Not even
but
just Mississippi. I have Louisiana in here. I have Philly in here. I have Chicago
dang,
in
New
here. I have
Jersey, you
Cali in
got
here.
Florida,
New Jersey.
got
Yeah.
the whole dynamic.
Ohio,
Like
everything.
you said, Pan African. So
Said Ireland too. We got black people in Ireland.
I mean, yes.
Now, now that we've got that a bit, we have to sort of get into our discussion because we're at the 20-minute mark, which means this is probably my favorite part. You get to have an hour and some change of just discussion and talk a little bit here and there. So, understanding from where we left off on Tuesday and just talking about the decolonization of the mind here, and we spoke about what were some ways that we could give back to the community as a whole. But when we speak about Pan-Africanism and we're talking about decolonizing the mind, we understand that if we're looking at 2050 and beyond, then we have to look at the youth. So what would be some ways that we could sort of introduce the youth to Pan-Africanism and sort of start that seed early?
Well, for one, I can reference the Shania's affirmation. That right there alone is powerful enough, especially for our generation. Being in the call and actually watching that myself, I'm imagining the generation after me and the generation after that. If we have affirmations like that to be, you know, this is who we are. This is us as a people. Without what we have, our neighbors. I'll say not free. It's a good encouragement.
That's great. Kerrigan, could you like turn your camera down a bit? Because you spitting, but we can only see the top of your head. There we go.
I'm sorry.
Like
I'm
it
on
was
my
like this,
phone and it's on the
bro. It was like that. And I was like, this is great, but like where they at? And then but there we go.
I'm
So
here. I promise you I'm here.
all right, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
Solo, what you got for me, man?
In terms of also like, piggybacking off what Kerrigan said, the affirmations, and most importantly, getting to our like it all starts at home in terms of and teaching, encouraging our own Black youth, giving them their political base, not letting our liberal school institutions give them their politics, making sure that everything starts at home, getting into elementary schools themselves, getting education programs together,
Absolutely.
local policy, because that's where local and state policy is where school school things are determined for districting. So
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up the schools because understanding that, everything is virtual now due to COVID-19. And for us, that just means that we wake up like and log into a computer and maybe fall asleep on Zoom or not for our class. But
right.
for kids, it's like a whole different thing because they lose out on that social interaction. They lose out on those just building fundamental skills. So but this is also a great opportunity because like you said that a lot of the schools that people go to are a lot of the public schools people go to are liberal and or maybe even conservative depending on the area and the teacher. So this might be an opportunity for Black people to sort of regain our own education. And how do you guys propose using the current space of COVID-19 and the virtual environment to sort of educate the youth earlier than what they would have been? Because I know a lot of people grow up in these like predominantly white schools because those are the quote unquote good schools. So you can go to a quote unquote good college and then you end up being a good American citizen. But you also have this weird a relationship with yourself and understanding your blackness. So, which is nothing wrong with that. Like if you're a new black, that's totally cool. Just you'll figure it out soon enough. But but to sort of prevent that identity crisis here earlier, because this is an opportunity. I know Clever Community is in action. We've been having these well, for months on now, like since March, hit the ground running. But they've been reading culturally affirming literature for Black children, as well as in the barbershops. They've had children read books for free haircuts and things like that, as well as just other programs such as the book drives. But in this space, as HBCU students, how can we give back to our younger? Just I had to pause a bit. 11 years deep. To put that in perspective, I'm 18. I just turned 18. So back when Obama was president, that's when they were running with this, like the first term of Barack too. So CSA has been in the field for a very long time, like more than half my life. But understanding that the environment we're in now offers us a great opportunity because the kids aren't directly in the classroom anymore. So they won't be, getting the indoctrination into the American ideology. What is a way to propose that we can sort of turn them away from this mentality of American neoliberalism and get them to a mentality of loving their blackness in order to get them to a Pan-Africanist mindset?
And during COVID-19, actually, that you mentioned before, the internet is such a great resource, and I feel like there should be more resources for us. One thing I noticed when I was in high school, I'll never forget this. One of my teachers, they asked me, "Why do you think African American history is elective compared to American history? Why is it not integrated inside the subject as itself?" And I just feel like we have to start actually showing ourselves like, hey, we started this, we did this, Haitians did this, Guyana
Mhm.
did this, and we are very fundamental in a lot of things that you see around you. We learn about Christopher Columbus, we learn about Da Vinci, but we don't learn about people like Walter Rodney or even Chocalumba, late mayor, uh,
Yeah.
people like so.
So like I definitely agree. It's like just looking at the way that they make anything black auxiliary. I mean, even calling yourself Black American because they make you believe that the default to be American is just to be white. So even the terminology there, but we'll get into that later. But like when it comes to addressing how do we get the kids indoctrinated now, we said that taking back history. So understanding that we have to, but then that leads to the question of a lot of people older than us don't really understand or even know about our history as a whole because they've been bred in sort of
Years of indoctrination.
absolutely like you can probably ask somebody who's like 45 right now on the street, yo man, who's Walter Rodney? And they might not be able to tell you just because the American educational system isn't that good for one. And if you're black, then it's
And
really
it's
not
biased.
good.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, personally, I think one of the ways that we can have just to get the kids back into this mindset of pro blackness and affirming blackness is to use the mediums that we do have, such as CCIA, but as well as reaching out to local schools and making sure, and just any teacher that's like, oh wow, Kerrigan. Oh, see, I started talking about reaching out to the community, and Kerrigan left. So this might be one of those moments where
Oh
we,
no, 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 no,
You
no,
might
no,
be
no,
an
no, no.
FBI agent.
yeah, bro. Like I'm just saying, like we start talking about Walter Rodney, and you dip
No,
back.
I love my community. Let's not. I love my community. Yes, I'm back.
I believe you, but like,
Do you believe you?
you know what I'm saying? Like, but I would say
I
getting
definitely believe myself. Yes.
so going back to the communities and using the mediums that we have now, such as the virtual space, and just sort of reaching out to our high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, and letting them know about some of the resources we have here, as well as talking to the teachers. Because a lot of America's teachers are very upset with the system as a whole, especially black teachers, because they understand the system isn't built for black children whatsoever. And that leads me to my next question of what what is the role of black teachers within the Pan-Africanist movement?
Personally, as a black person, it was very important for me to see people like my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, just people around me in general that are teachers, and
Mhm.
not just things like liberal arts, but in STEM and just all types of areas. The examples that my mom has given, uh, being how do you say a waymaker. I don't know the other word
Mhm.
for it, but for people in her field, not only as a female but as a black female, I feel like it's important to have these role models in our community, even though it's really just a sorry, word not for me today.
Now you good,
Even
man.
though
Like
it's a concept that is like really like it's not hard to grasp, but it's hard to digest.
I got you. I got you. And the reason why I'd asked that question is because we understand that black teachers have really been the backbone for Black American progress. And but there's also that it's a double-edged sword here because there are some black teachers who are constricted by the system and they can't adequately explain. You can. It's basically like they're a black teacher, but they have to put being a teacher their job first before them being black. And we see that in recent years, especially after integration. And it's gonna be like it's gonna be a recurring thing where I bring up integration in like a negative light. I have nothing against integration in America. I just have several critiques of it, and we'll get to that.
Definitely can be critiqued.
Like, but understanding that teachers have been used within the American, well, not even just within any sort of setting where black people have been, where teachers have been used to sort of further the white supremacist agenda. So, how do we sort of use teachers effectively for the black movement and get them away from that white supremacist ideology? Because there are many teachers who have told young boys and girls that they won't end up anywhere in life. They'll end up either dead or in jail. And they also believe so. For example, in middle school, my favorite school was Hardyville Ridgeland in South Carolina. I loved it. It was the blackest school I ever been to. It might have been blacker than Howard, to be honest, population wise, not culturally. But it was a really black school. I loved it. I felt really in kinship with everyone. And that was a big moment for me. But I left the school after about 2 or 3 months because I'd scored the second highest like English score in the whole school as a sixth grader among all grades. And the secretary told my mom, "You have to pull him out of the school because if he stays here, he won't go anywhere and he's gonna suffer like in the long run." And that always stuck with me because what about the other kids at the school who were just stuck there and weren't able to move in that way? And it's like, how do we have teachers who see the issue, who understand that there's a deficit in resources for the children and for themselves, and end up thinking, well, this is how it's supposed to be, so we can only push a few to somewhat to a better place, and then leave the rest of the children to sort of go through the doldrums of American education. So how do we get the teachers back on our side?
I
And
think it's like in the same way that we're talking about deprogramming our communities in terms of their logics, it's the same logics applied to those teachers and the nature that you were moved along from school to school because you were an exceptional being that like is a perfect example of prioritizing individualism over the community as a whole. um, if one person makes it out, what happens to the rest of everyone else? So it's really a matter of understanding that uh, as a teacher, your responsibility is, because you owe it to your ancestors, you owe it to the black people who moved you into the positions that you are to, uh, bring others along on the same journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. Kerrigan, did you have
Uh,
anything on that?
for me, my educational experience personally, I was in private school, I'd say Catholic school in Mississippi for a while with predominantly white teachers and students. I remember there was a point where I was the only black in the lessons. I transitioned to public school in the inner city, and that actually made me even more comfortable being around my people. Even though I hadn't been around them, it was just home for me.
Yeah,
I
man.
went to boarding school. I went to it's one of the only historically black boarding schools in the country. It's Honeywood, and that experience alone was very empowering. Going to an HBCU, Jackson State, originally Jackson College, definitely also empowering. I feel for us to make sure I get my words. For us to make sure that we are teaching the audience that we are reaching for effectively, we have to acknowledge them as the people they are. We cannot be afraid to acknowledge, like, hey, we all have our differences, and we all are not just going to default to what has been, I'm going to say, spoon fed.
Appreciate that. Whoa. Okay, okay,
The
okay, okay.
feds got her. The feds got her.
Hey, but it's cool though. It's cool. Okay. Hopefully our internet is good. Um, she really gave that word. She was like, I was around black people and I felt comfortable and it just felt like home. And then they immediately sniped her. Like
They did. They
this
did.
right here is how powerful the FBI is because they know
Right.
how amazing Pan-Africanism is. And I'm glad Kerrigan said that because like when it comes to Pan-Africanism, and it's one thing to be one black person in a white space. It's one thing to be 13% of the population in a predominantly white area. It's one thing to be one black nation in the world. It's another thing to be roughly 2 billion black people in the world because the weight holds different. And Solomon. We talked
Yes.
about getting the teachers back on. We talked about sort of decolonizing our minds. And one of the principles of being African, not Pan African, but this is an African principle, is that we're a very communal people. We're people built around community. That is what our culture surrounds, a collectivism. We're not individualistic or anything of the sort. So I believe, wait a minute. See, I said community, right? And then guess who popped back? See, it's just
The
like
power of the ancestors propelled her on.
like they pulled us through. They pulled us through. Like I said, community, and they was like, "We got her." The
Thank you. It's just a connection issue. The weather, I don't know what's going on, but
it's because
I've
the
been here.
FBI got the weather machine out there, man. Like,
Mississippi, bro.
but we were just talking about how we understand that Black people are a communal,
Thank you.
collective, and caring people, and it's a cultural commonality among us all. So understanding that we're communal people and we share a lot when it comes to Pan Africanism, and we're looking at the current scope now, especially with the pandemic, um, economics. Yeah, we bring back the Ujama thing. So collective economics, because this is where a lot of things go. So, what is one way that we will see Black people build wealth for themselves that will be able to sustain national generations? Because when we speak of generational wealth, in the current context, it's such as one person buying a house or owning some land, and then their grandchildren are set straight. But it completely doesn't take into account that their cousins might not even be good, or the fact that their community as a whole probably won't benefit from this home. So when we speak of national wealth sustainability, understanding that Black people around the diaspora hold most of the mineral resources of the earth, how is it that we can use these resources in order to effectively sustain quote unquote wealth for ourselves, understanding that wealth is just being able to have our material needs met with no stress upon us, and we're able to actually indulge in other areas instead of trying to figure out basically how we're going to eat that night. What are some ways that we can build national economic prosperity?
National economic
Even though you guys aren't econ majors, I should have had Marshall on for this one.
Yeah, Marshall would have beasted on this one.
I know, like a finance major, capitalist, and everything, but
Yeah, he would have got it.
floating on common sense here with that one. Let's well, we could just do deductive reasoning.
okay,
Economics
start.
and resources. Ooh. We
Start.
must work and advocate to stabilize Black communities rather than the individuals. That makes sense. When you said generational wealth, the first person that came to my mind was Beyonce. Actually, she's
Mm,
considered actually royalty in effect, where it's not only her that is benefiting. She has things set up for generations behind her and her family, her children, her children's children, and their children, and I would call that royalty, just for a good title. And in order for those resources and wealth, as you said, wealth um, to be distributed to the community, it has to be actively distributed. So I feel more of us have to be communal and recognize the needs and wants and meet them of our community.
cool.
And a good, also, I guess a good point to bring up again. Like I think last show I referenced Martin Luther King's "I've Been to the Mountaintop" speech, where he was talking about, um, in order to, I guess, halt violence leveled against Black people, it's withdrawing economics, and that also pairs with investing in Black-owned like institutions, and it's not like necessarily uh, when you qualify Black-owned institutions, it's not like making one organization or one corporation like the richest corporation in the world, because class also ties in with the final analysis of things, because you don't want to have someone be like a billionaire and not necessarily focusing on their community, but like really understanding that like we as Black people need to invest in our very local institutions, like say there's a Black-owned grocery store around you. It's that easy to go to that Black-owned grocery store rather than go to Walmart if they have like the same prices. If it's a service that you're looking for, you're looking locally, buy Black, keep your money within your community, keep it circulating within.
And we're gonna send up some love for Kerrigan because she got sniped again. But I think we might be good on this one. We got another Haitian coming through. Y'all know who this one is. There's no real need for an introduction. So we got Jody back in. So yeah, welcome back. We got another Haitian coming through. And like if one pops in, then the community gets bigger, and then Kerrigan came back. So it feels good. Last day, last show of the year, and we got two people who come from very revolutionary lineages in there. So always good to see that one. And
we got Bookman Duddy and Tucson Louverture running through their veins.
absolutely.
Yes. Very fast.
Zamir, what shirt you got on, bro?
Oh man, this is the first Howard shirt I ever had.
Oh,
This is the one I wore to I was about to say ASD, but I think it was fall open house. This is the one I wore. So Ms. Star says, well, Yana said, follow PhD, purchase, hire, and deposit Black. Ms. Star follows up with the fact that we know we've stepped into a Black area when we've reached any hood USA is a problem. We've gotten comfortable with that as reality. We deserve stable communities.
See, that's the problem with integration.
Okay. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, as a Mississippi person living in Mississippi, if I can speak on school desegregation, one of my professors was actually going to write a book about this. The trend of the migration of the white people out of the inner cities to get after school desegregation, which coined the term inner city for black people, especially Jackson. Jackson is the perfect example. Our streets are full of potholes, lights don't get fixed, uh, everything is just run down. But when you go to the suburbs, everything is completely nice, and that's because it's very easy way to say it is pick and choose.
Absolutely.
School
And
desegregation really affected a lot of politics, as in social politics, not even just economic politics, not even just politics in general.
Definitely that the fact that integration creates the duality of, like, you have black folks, and uh there's the mentality, because you can make it out of the hood, go towards, like, aspire to be in a white area. You're not necessarily focused on being and, like, having communal logics and investing within your community, because you're focused on, like, aspiring to the higher economic fund, which is usually, like, whiteness. It you know uh I'm not I'm not speaking down on integration itself. I'm not saying that white people and black people should be separated forever, but
It was a good idea.
But
It
let's
was
just
a
keep it a
good
buck. Let's keep it a buck,
idea.
because you mentioned basically people wanting to, move out of their black neighborhoods,
right.
and like how they have the mentality of, let's get, like, I got to get out of the hood.
Let's make it out.
Um, I mean, when speaking, I'm not going to speak for everybody here, because some people might have the mentality of getting out of these neighborhoods to get away from blackness. But I don't think that's, like, always necessarily just the mentality behind it. Most of the time, people just want to get out of these neighborhoods because they're like, hey, man, like, I'm tired of, like, living in poverty. I'm tired of living in these, like, environmentally racist areas where I got to deal with, like, all this lead. I got to live in a food desert, because like, actually, in my sociology class this past semester, we actually did an entire unit on, like, Memphis and their food deserts, and how, if you, like, I think it's West Memphis where, like, that's a food desert, and also East Memphis, and if you go up to North or South, um where all the white, like, people in Memphis live, they, like, have a surplus of food. So it's stuff like that. So I think, and this is why, like, I was thinking about the community development major for the longest, is because we don't have to integrate to just, revitalize the communities. Because here's the thing, black people, and I'm sure you could study this over any period of time, like, for decades, black people haven't really been fond of integration. They don't really want to be around white people. Black people have never wanted to be around white people. But what black people don't necessarily enjoy, because no one would enjoy this, is living in poverty. Right. So, like, if we could revitalize and have our own black thriving communities, which exist in some places, like, you can look around. I'm pretty sure there's several places like that in the DMV. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, like, if we could have more of those, it's up. It's up.
An example I can think of, like, something in my own. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Carrie.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Well, an example I can think of in my own hood. I have a friend. Her parents are Guyanese, and they moved over with Chokwe Lumumba from Texas when he was elected. And what her parents did, they really lived in, I'll say, the hood. Y'all know what I mean by that. They bought a collective of houses and flipped the houses into Airbnbs. And they run that in a community garden to make sure that the whole community is fed and that they are supplied with jobs and that they all have something to do and build creatively and productively. And things like that, building up the community from within, is something I find very important to do, especially because we only have ourselves.
And I see we're going in the community development route, and I think that's pretty good, because that way we get into the infrastructural route here, and we get to bring up Booker T. Washington a bit, because when it comes to the route that we've taken with integration, we see that black people have gone into these prestigious schools, and they've gotten these really good jobs, and they've basically been able to sort of shadow themselves with debt to live amongst white people, and other black people have sort of fallen through the cracks, the cracks that were intentionally put there. And we have to ask ourselves going forward, and this isn't just within black area, like black American areas, this is just diaspora areas here, in the sense that we don't have the materials that we need to produce the material skills. I mean, because how many people know a black electrician or a black welder or a black plumber or someone to put up drywall in their home? Because we understand that to combat these issues of homelessness amongst black people, we just need houses. And it would be really easy to build these black houses that are affordable if there were these black carpenters. But no one knows a black woodworker. So in 2020, we sort of sat here and we look back at everything, and we understand that going forward, we need to sort of start from scratch, in the sense that we need to have a dominion over exact natural resources.
Oh, so this is where Booker T. Washington comes in.
See,
okay.
The trade.
Yep. See,
trades. Yeah.
I know I talk a lot, and I like to paint a picture, but like, because it's okay, it's not even Washington, but Sankara too. It's like, don't give me food, like don't give me food, don't give me, and that's what it is. It's like
you could name that area too.
See, and this is where it comes into the Pan-Africanism here, because we have all the tools we need. In America, we have the highest standard of living ever seen in the world. Funny, right? And then we suffered from COVID for like the last several months, but whatever. And we understand.
Also, you continue.
So we understand that like every region in the diaspora, and I say region, not country, because the borders are fake. Every region has their own minerals and materials that can be used to benefit the other region. The issue to that, though, is that, you know, white supremacy won't allow that to happen. So coming back here, looking towards 2050 and beyond, what is the way that we can emphasize bringing back trades as well as intellectual energies? So it's cool to be a history major. It's cool to be a community development major. It's cool to be a legal communication major. But we don't need everybody to grow up and to be a lawyer, doctor, or...
Right.
Yeah, society doesn't even function that way on a large scale. I was talking about it on our Kwanzaa broadcast, that's not how society operates, because in order for a society to function, like, you need every job to be fulfilled. So
absolutely, and
like unskilled labor is a capitalist myth used to justify just wage slavery. Like,
absolutely,
because that's where I was going with this whole thing. Because I was thinking to myself, you know, the reason that we don't know a black woodworker, the reason like we don't know any black welders, is because these jobs aren't looked at as lucrative. Don't nobody want to pursue a job, even if it's useful. Don't nobody want to pursue a career if it's not seen as lucrative and they can't like feed the family off of it. So,
and that's what comes in with like changing our definitions of like, we have the working definition and within the community of like, you know, black excellence, and that's always, you know, aspiring to be some six-figure lawyer, six-figure doctor. Like sometimes that black excellence comes with finding a role that accords
from the ground up, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's also where like you have to reconsider the concept of value, because one, that's what drives income inequality in America. The like notion that one career or one job is inherently more valuable to a society than another. So where was I going with this? Basically, just okay. I forgot where I was going with this. Anybody want to pick it up? Because I was speaking to the idea of like value. Because I was trying to go off what you were saying, Scylla, about
like you know, like how the fact that you know, we might look at like have a stereotype of like, you know, oh, we have to go to college and acquire a bachelor's, master's, and PhD because that's the only thing that's going to, you know, get us to a higher economic rung. Like, it's like,
okay,
yeah, that stereotype, but like, you know, the whole time a plumber or electrician could be making more than, you know, somebody who has a bachelor's degree in history or a bachelor's degree in mathematics.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Biology, without the debt.
Great uncles came over, brick masons. brick masons. That's why I was like, yeah, black people. I've definitely seen them work hard with their hands, especially when the educational system has failed them.
And I think the where I was going with that is like not everybody can afford to go to an HBCU, especially in the long run, because I know a lot of people going to HBCUs, you're paying out of pocket for that and you can't really afford it. So you're banking on getting a job that at least pay you like 45,000 when you get out so you can start chipping into the debt. So understanding that we need to bring back trades in the sense of brick masons, in any type of masonry, having mechanics as well as working alongside black people who are in the intellectual energies. So
You know, it's funny, like when you talk about like, trades and then like Booker T, because like a lot of us like, might paint people like, Booker T and then like, like their strategies aren't necessarily related, but like, Booker T and MLK is like, coons, but like, you have to understand that, the historical context of, the time that they were living in was different in terms of like how they had to be strategically,
absolutely.
to
And
attain.
I think if we look at it from Booker T's perspective and we compare that to Du Bois, because they're intertwined.
Where forever.
Work hard enough, and the white people will accept you. Versus if we just get the first 10 to be smart, then the rest of them will come through. I think that both of them were flawed because it was like centered around eventually white people are going to like us, and the way America is set up is not going to work. But I think that they both show merits because if 10% of the black population has, let's say, a bachelor's or a master's or even a PhD, I don't know why you would do that to yourself, especially since PhDs are worthless nowadays. But go ahead, bro. It's up to you. And if we understand that there are some black people who would be who are just more inclined to be in academic spheres, as well as understanding that having a trade is essential to building a strong community, because a lot of black people are renters. And it's one thing when your like water heater goes out and you got to pay somebody else. Usually it's the landlord who has to pay that. But if your landlord is rude or a jerk, then you got to pay out of pocket for that. But if you just know something, but if you have a trade or a skill for that, then you'll be able to fix it on your own or know someone who can fix it for cheap. And when Jody, you said reconstructing the concept of value, I think that really hits home because right now we know all about food deserts. We understand that there is just a crisis when it comes to so many things in the black community. And the basis of all of this is Kerrigan got sniped, bro. Yo. Soon she gonna come back. So understanding that there's a basis that needs to be set for where do we build from, and Kerrigan said the ground up, and that's facts. Because like if we have people who own land ownership is a scam too, but whatever. But if we have people who own, because it's
settle the logic, bro. Settle the logic.
I'm just saying, like, so if we have people who own the land to build a house or to farm, then we can move onward and we can be like, all right, so this farm is going to go into a black store. Then we're like, okay, cool. So now we have the ownership of the land, the fruits of the labor of black people going into these, into these conduits to reach the masses of black people. So that right there is land ownership. And then to bring it back, we're black Americans. Owning land in this country is really difficult because like racism. So this is where the diaspora comes in because, well, we could look at Robert Mugabe, for example, and even his land redistribution program. Before Mugabe redistributed the land, he was like a knight in England and everybody loved him because all the white people loved him because he was supposedly this really good politician who didn't have any ill will to white people for basically pillaging his country for the last several centuries. And then once Nelson Mandela got free, Mugabe was like, all right, give us the land now. And that's when a lot of things started to go sideways and they started to paint Mugabe as a dictator. But we understand that in African countries, as well as the Caribbean countries, The land is there. It's simply people must go and get it, and that's difficult because then we get into that like militant thing, and this is still the first season, and Kerrigan already got sniped about 6 times. I don't want the whole program to get sniped. So, what is one way for Black people around the diaspora to regain ownership of the land that they live on and that their communities and ancestors lived on, so that they can start sustaining themselves?
You know, it's a like 2050 and beyond. It's a project of generations. You know, understanding that like you do have to get like leaders, political leaders who like want to use those strategies and models that have already been implemented by those Pan-African leaders of the past in terms of nationalizing their resources and, you know, getting like laborers to like, you know, work for the like the community as is the African way, like, you know, working for ourselves. Like it's very hard because like we get into the, like you said, it's just the first season and we have to get into the conversation of abolishing U.S. imperialism and getting Africa Command out of Africa and
Africa, for those who don't know.
Yeah, like, you know, getting those people who are, you know, China is not doing imperialism in the way that the U.S. is doing imperialism or has done imperialism worldwide. So we could dispel that myth on the show, but like, you know,
so to expand that, to expand off of that, because a lot of people might not know what's going on with China when you mention that. So basically, in Africa, there are no Chinese military bases.
Right.
In Africa, there are several Chinese businessmen who are xenophobic and racist. Yes, they are. It happens.
But it's business, not imperialism.
And to be fair, Africans have beat those racists up. Like, I've seen the videos. Like, they handle that. They handle that. So you can go there if you want to, but like, remember where you at.
All right.
But also, China gives out these loans or these fishing rights for, well, they ask for these fishing rights in exchange for loans, and these are like for like 99 years or something like that. So clearly, we're in the beyond portion of being beyond, and all of this is basically people are clamoring around the fact that China is doing neo-imperialism in Africa. And the thing is, they're giving Africans like low interest loans, and the African people are actually using the money to build that infrastructure. I know one instance, China, okay, for example, I mentioned a while ago, China helped finance the railway in Nigeria, which was the first like mega railway in the region, the West African region, not Nigeria. And we see that this is what's necessary for industrialization, because that we speak about communalism a lot, but communalism didn't have a lot of productivity. So as things moved forward, there was then feudalism, which we saw in, you know, Japan, China, as well as Europe. Africa was on the verge of becoming feudal, but they were interrupted by capitalists, which then introduced harsh chattel slavery. But we go from communalism, all of this from Walter Rodney's How You're Undeveloped Africa, by the way, CCIA. So we have communalism, then we have feudalism, then we have capitalism, and all of them feature a time, all of them are sort of highlighted by the fact that there's an increased productivity due to the fact that technology allows people to, somebody got a message, congratulations, somebody like you. So all of this shows as we go through these developmental stages of economics, they're all pushed forward by the changes in technology. So seeing the industrialization of Africa finally come is really good to see, albeit they come on the dollar of China, but still at least it's coming, right? And these are just in some areas, such as Nigeria, such as South Africa. And we even see it among other Africans with the Eastern African Collective, which is, I think, 5 African nations. I can't name them off the top of my head, my apologies. But they're all working collectively, and they're transcending those nation state borders and working amongst each other to build a new identity in a sense of that region and that area. And it's really beautiful. And there's a video on it that I wish I could remember, but it really goes in depth about it. And it talks about when, so I'll tell y'all this. season 2, when we come back, we'll talk about African borders and just the concept of borders as a whole, because I don't want to go on passing on that one. But we did just to clarify on China. So there you go, Solo, my fault.
Oh,
Christopher in the comments said
Just
we can
like,
push
you know,
for the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I said I'm noting a comment by Christopher. We can push for the desired communities that we want with unity and diligence.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
understanding that, like, you know, eventually, like, you know, what although it's not imperialism in the same way that or imperialism necessarily at all in the way that, you know, US and Europe have divided up Africa and, you know, uh policed and militarized or put their military in Africa. Like you know, eventually, like, when we all are in the state where we are you know, in the, like, you know, we're I'm sorry, my words are kind of
Now you good, man. It's all family. Like, take your time. You're having a Paul movement, man. That's a throwback. I hope if you was with us with them Paul movements, please let me know, because I'm the only one who remembers that, and I feel a little bit late. That's the reference I get. If y'all was go watch the old shows from like May, you'll see what I'm talking about. But not
yeah, just being self-sufficient. That was just, like, you know, the gist of it all.
just being self-sufficient. Which leads to the next question. We're talking about Pan-Africanism. We spoke a little bit about basically self-sufficiency, learning trades, getting back to the land, but we touched on the economics, we touched on the cultural a little bit, the intellectual sparingly here and there. But there it is, Miss Star knows, word to Paul, we love you, Paul. Right now Paul's about to be a sophomore, man, so like Paul's the only sophomore I know. That's how I know I'm getting old. But basically, I said that's a joke. Nobody laughed. All right, I'm about to wrap this up soon. Anyway, so we touched on all of that, but the whole concept is Pan-Africanism, and the step to that is basically there needs to be organizing. And Christopher said that, you know, we need unity and diligence, but those are all abstract concepts. And when we speak of anything, it's always in the abstract, but the goal of this is to bring it into the physical realm and the realm of action, because theory without practice is just rambling. It's just rambling. So
It's dead.
it's like faith without works, you know.
It's dead. Exactly.
So understanding that, there needs to be organizing done, and with that organizing, we can say, oh no, there needs to be local community organizing, and we can talk about CCIA and the All African People's Revolutionary Party. We can talk about, you know, any sort of political party that you still believe in. Power to you, and we can talk about any other grassroots organizing. But I think the organizing that we really need to see is not just these bless you question mark. Oh man.
Not my turn now. Hey.
That's like you had COVID. Like he coughed and then dipped.
And we were talking.
Oh man, that is crazy. Like,
hey, he got up out the chair.
Absolutely, like, dude, coughed. No, bro. Absolutely not.
So we're all history majors here, right?
No, he's a people communications major.
Communications. If I could ask what you see doing for the community with the route you're taking, education wise, just all that. For one, I never really wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to use my major to curate museums and be able to have, you know, resources for people, not only the elderly but children. There was a civil rights museum that opened maybe 2 years ago.
Where?
Downtown in my city, and it's beautiful, dedicated to Black history, and seeing things like that just really made me want to make more and create more resources for our people to go and peruse, absorb, and distribute when they get back home.
I think very, very importantly that we really have to understand that Pan-Africanism and the affirmation of blackness is not only just a simple collection of words. It's not just culturally like, oh, this is who you are, but also, you know, like what we've been talking about the entire show, imbuing those outcomes into whatever we're doing in terms of a profession. Like we're talking about like on intellectual, levels combined with cultural levels, combined with labor levels. Like say we're working in something that has to do with math, and we're talking about a geometric identity, and we're using the variable like theta, right? Like theta itself is, as a reference point, is inherently like it's Greek, right? So
So is this what you getting at?
like it's
Keep going. I like what I'm hearing.
it's Greek. So like it's just as common for me as a black person to say theta, as a Chinese person to say theta, as a British person to say theta, as whoever to say theta. But like, once we gain ourselves in terms of our, like, having responsibility as a community, putting like things in place in order for, like, us to benefit off of these like say you're a black biologist, and you're a black biologist and you find a new molecule, and you're like, oh yeah, this molecule is in reference point from like you're using your culture to and interpret your understanding of that molecule. Like it goes into every level of our reality. So understanding that it's both in name, we need to be politically sound, but also within whatever we're doing within our career, within it's all in service to the people.
Oh, because no, when you mentioned that like theta is Greek, I thought you were about to get into like this cultural just revamping of education in itself.
That's exactly what I mean. Like,
yeah. Okay, because that reminded me. And Jaimir and I had the same professor for psychology, but basically,
shout out to Dr. Brookins, man.
Shout out to Dr. Brookins. Shout out to Dr. Brookins.
Y'all go watch that Dr. Brookins episode, man. That was go. We want to talk about culture.
I can't remember whether it was the chapter on cognition or intelligence, but there was basically a chapter that outlined that basically the culture that you grow up in, it influences your cognition in a sense. And to illustrate this, the author of the textbook, and he has some pretty questionable like ideas that he spouts in the textbook, but we're not going to talk about that. He talks about this indigenous population, probably like in the continent of Oceania, and
you mean Australia?
Huh? Well, I mean, I said the continent because I don't remember whether it was in Australia or New Zealand.
They were Aborigines people in Australia.
Okay, they were in Australia.
Yeah.
So basically, to denote direction to themselves, instead of like left, front, right, back, they denote direction with east, west, north, and south. In America, we don't do that most of the time. We're left, right, like front, backwards. And basically, I guess the psychologist, he went into that indigenous population in Australia, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna need you to point west. And a bunch of little kids went and pointed like west. And then he asked them, he didn't ask the adults to do it because they felt like that would be like insulting to their intelligence. Then he went to some American conference and he asked like the people in the audience to point west. And these were grown adults, and majority of them couldn't do it. So basically, and the way that I'm tying this in is the culture that African Americans grow up in is not the same culture as the ones that, white Americans grow up in. And while, a lot of factors factor into the fact that, we might not achieve as well as they do according to, educational standards, part of what might tie into this is simply culture and how our culture affects our cognition. You can't really test two different cultures in the same like way. So like also a revitalization of just education and how it's presented to Black people and how like we choose to learn, which is why students need to go to HBCUs, because if they end up at like some PWI where they just deal with racism for 4 years and they don't really get the most out of their education because they chose not to go to an HBCU, things just end up bad. Like you got 4 years of trauma instead of 4 years of affirmation and like just exploring yourself. And also, why we need that foreign exchange program so we can go around and meet other Black people
So
and
we can
learn from
educate
them. See, you got.
I know one aspect of education that is super important isn't just the learning environment; it's the social interaction with each other that really just takes it home.
Like that's the beauty thing of it. And to sort of tie things back, this will probably be the last question, and even then, this is gonna like cut it close. But we talk about, because it's like 15 minutes, and I'm trying to get out soon, but I feel like this one could probably take 20, so we'll see. It's the last day of the year. We got it. Jody got sniped too, and one of the things that I said, he got sniped, but he came back.
He's covered by the answer. He got. I'm telling you, he got Dessalines right there in his corner.
Absolutely, man. You can tell Jody covered. But basically, like, because we talked about these abstract things, and we're speaking about like going, and we're doing what we want to do. So we're going beyond 2050, talking about cultural connection there, educating amongst ourselves, XYZ. But when we speak of organizing, you can talk about community organizing and grassroots things like that. But I think the most immediate organizing that will ever probably happen is to make sure if you're Black and you live amongst other Black people, making sure that your neighbors are okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna cook for everyone today, and not everybody, but if you can manage it, and go ahead and cook for everybody on your floor. They'll appreciate it. And just building that kinship and community, and then understanding that
Love it.
rent is due tomorrow. So if everybody in an apartment complex is Black, and everybody's like,
you got that one white tenant, and you're like, no, we finna leave them out of this.
yeah, like I'm just saying, this
Like,
is
it's kind of awkward to have them around. I don't like their potato
The
salad.
African people's only rent.
Historically, there have been many Afro-Asian. Oh wow, that's mad. There have been Arab people, white people among Black people, and they've been, cool too. But also historically, many people of those groups are very antagonistic to Black people. So when we see African people, it's a phenotype and a mentality. You don't need to have the phenotype sometimes, because a lot of people have the phenotype but not the mentality. Well, that's a different thing.
Okay.
Yeah, this
And
is
we can go into the model minority whole thing. Yeah.
Soon, but y'all got great topics. I'm gonna go ahead. But understanding that direct community organizing in the form of mutual aid is essential, because we don't see that anymore, which is why the civil rights movements were so powerful, was because everybody was with each other, and everybody was like, okay, cool, you had a rough day, bro. All right, well, my family gonna cook for you, or we can watch your kids or something like that. And we don't, not to say we don't see that anymore, because it happens, but we don't see that as much.
Like I was gonna point out, I don't remember the full situation. I don't remember anything. I always notice that I lead things with I don't remember. But wasn't there, and I don't know if you guys read about this, but there was basically all of these tenants that had an apartment, and they all had like the same landlord in this apartment. So basically what had happened was, I think he was going to evict at least a few of them or most of them. And they were like, yeah, no, we're not going to have that. We're in the middle of a pandemic. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull all our money together and we're just going to buy the whole apartment. And they did that. Like, they own it now. So like, there's definitely things like that. Like, just.
That's nice.
Housing is a right. Housing is a right.
Housing is a right. So moments of solidarity like that, like, it could take you far, because, look, now they don't have to deal with, like, a landlord. They don't got to deal with rent every month. They basically own the place. And I'm pretty sure if, like, they pulled together to do something like that, like, in that, like, apartment is probably it takes a village type, like, situation.
Absolutely.
Whereas, like, they probably a tight-knit community, probably know all, like, the whole thing is just, like, taking care of each other. Like, I don't know. people always have those little ice-breaking exercises where they're like, okay, raise your hand if you know your neighbor's name, or like raise your hand if like you're friends with your neighbor, or like you share resources with them, you share food with them. And it's like nowadays we don't see much of that, but like
Integration destroyed it.
forming neighborhood identity. Well, like, we can get into the fact that like
The integration episode comes season 2. I promise you.
so
Can't wait for this one.
Can we really get this in? Because if we really want to talk about it, like integration ain't really like do that much like to this day. Like we still highly segregated in the United States of America.
You're gonna accept every viewer that's over the age of 65, bro.
Still highly segregated, man.
Oh man.
Also, random interjection. Shout out Kyrie Irving, Lincoln University, 11 students.
Yeah, Kyrie. He gave. You think he paid the full tuition for everybody?
He paid
Really?
nine students, but it's cool.
I thought it was 11 or 9. But either way, that was a millionaire giving back, and I don't think we ever talked about like the black elite in an episode once.
We can get into several different things.
I brought up Beyonce earlier, but we can really get into it.
We could.
I made a thread a while back because remember Andre Iguodala was like racism and capitalism go hand in hand,
And he had group economics on the back of his jersey.
Yeah, that, and once he said that, remember he had that reporter blasting him talking about, oh, this is very ahistorical. Like Iggy is
because he's an idiot and he can't
You
necessarily
ever read Capitalism and Slavery? Like
that just led me into the fact that like, okay, remember when all the NBA players were about to go on strike because they were like, oh yeah, like this because
Obama was like
millionaires, right? But the people who own their teams are straight up billionaires. So they were like, you know what? I don't feel like the NBA as an organization is doing enough to help black people in this country. So we're going to go on strike. And then they went to Obama's little elite self and they were like,
I just want you to know that you have to speak very kindly of former President Barack Obama, please.
They was like, what should we do? And his old moderate self, Republican, antagonist to progress, antagonist to black liberation self was like,
he was a good moralistic figure, but
no,
stop this
fight. Y'all can't do that. Go, shut up and dribble. And that's another thing, because when we get into the budget, you gotta also like,
and LeBron wasn't reading.
Really think about who we consider the black elite, because when we consider NBA players, most of them came like from poverty, and then just because like they could shoot hoops, they was like, oh, we finna give you millions. That's a lot of power, and that's a lot of influence that they don't necessarily utilize. They could if they wanted to, but like most of them don't. But it's like,
Obama pack.
I feel like more celebrities, because like if we compare them to Hollywood, NBA players in Hollywood ain't the same thing. Because, like those people are groomed for it. Like they come up from birth just rich as compared to NBA players who just like, just trained from poverty to just get it out the mud and go shoot hoops. So it's just like, if we looking for someone to at least like stand in solidarity to, it's probably going to be like athlete. Because athletes are getting done dirty to this day, even in their colleges. Like, they getting profited off of a slave labor. That's why when I talk to McCord Maker, we're gonna have this conversation with McCord.
McCord, it's time. Season 2. McCord.
We gonna have
get it on the show.
You're teasing us.
One, I'm gonna tell him once he gets to the NBA, he's gotta dunk on Denny and then say free Palestine. We gotta get
the episode, bro. We gonna have you read this. Don't be like Braun. You gonna read
the first revolutionary NBA. Well, no, he wouldn't be the first because there have been some revolutionary NBA players in our past.
Kareem.
He's gonna be the new.
All sinners, by the way. Bring back the big man.
Gee.
Shaq is also a capitalist. So thank you guys. That was great. But we gotta wrap things up a little bit. So Kerrigan, we're gonna welcome you to our Council of Scholars, aka our embalming good fellas. I'm vibing with that one. Mbongo means basically a room without walls, and that's what this virtual medium is. There are no
Beautiful.
walls here. We all come together in fellowship. So, any last words before we have a word from our sponsors, and then have our HBCU recognition and closing?
I want to thank Jameer. I want to thank Star and Solomon, and also Joseph. Sorry if I
Thank you.
say.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
I just enjoyed this entire thing. As you see, I've been scribbling down so much. I feel like I've learned a lot. I mean, I came here to talk, and I left with some more stuff. So I'm really grateful.
See, that's what we're trying to do here.
I have a question.
Any
What's your
experience?
Hmm? As you mentioned, you're a history major. What class? Like, are you HU?
I'm a senior.
A senior? Oh, you finally got a senior on here, Jameer. Wow.
Generational.
I got a senior
Gotta-
on here.
See,
Solomon.
Solomon. Thank
Oh,
you,
Solomon.
Solomon, you know, give you props.
I just appreciate any opportunity to discuss this type of thing. A Black collective coming together, talking about things that may not even be common knowledge. A lot of niche things. We have to make this common because we are loud. We are out here. We've been here. As a Haitian, we definitely showed you. We were here.
We are
definitely
not over. We're just doing closing remarks from our panelists. We are not over. We
Never
ended
that.
8:30. We ended 8:30.
Not over. We're taking over. Let's do that one.
Okay, let's do it.
But, definitely appreciate
It's
this.
never
Definitely
over. We're
glad
back
Solomon.
every Tuesday and Thursday.
Definitely thankful for Solomon because I would have. This is a whole different college. I go to Jackson State. I'm definitely grateful for this one. Anything to get my brain going, anything to educate and discuss. You know, I'm down for it. So thank you.
Great, man.
Before I ramble some more.
Appreciate it. Solo, anything you had to say, Solomon? Face.
He's so ugly.
He said.
Thank you to the peoples for tuning in. Thank you to Jameer and Jody, brothers. Always, thankful for having me on. Thank you to Kerrigan for joining, being so willing. But she was on time. She was here before even I was. Everybody.
Corona. Don't quarantine vibes.
Good time as always.
Absolutely. Jody, you got anything, man, before we hit him?
I'm always happy to be here. I was watching Soul with my family, but I had to pop in late. Can't ever miss a panel. You already know, I love being here. I love talking with you guys. Can't wait for next week. Can't wait for the week after that because we always have good conversations. I always look forward to it.
Can't wait for the Pan-African bicycle.
Thank you, Jameer. Thank you. Thank you, Kari.
Oh, and shout out to everyone that showed up in the chat too.
Absolutely,
just appreciate that, and not even just showed up, but the contribution to the conversation.
The comments,
definitely,
man. This was beauty, man. I'm mad appreciative of y'all doing this. And before I say my words to wrap things up, we got a word from our sponsors. But thank you, Kerrigan. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Jody, man. We're going to be right back after this.
Hey everyone, it is Tasha Turnbull here, owner of T2 Fitness, and I am bringing to you all the Homebody Series. The Homebody Series was created because we are now more so at home, but guess what? I want us to feel connected. I want us to feel strong together. I want us to sweat together, and I want us to build our healthiest bodies possible. So we're going to be bringing you live workouts that you can do in the mornings, in the evenings, on the weekends, anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes. They're going to be low impact workouts, high impact workouts, but guess what? No matter what your fitness level is, all workouts are going to be able to accommodate wherever you are along your fitness journey. So make sure you join us because we need to work out, we need to be strong, and we can do this all from home.
I told you I was going to be back. The discussion is a one thing, you know what I'm saying? But what I tell you, I said when I came in, I said what we was going to do. We was going to do the news of the diaspora. We was going to get into the discussion. And then what else? That HBCU recognition is not always about Howard because you know how hard I try. That's good. How hard I try to get everybody else in the family, get their information, get their recognition. And what we about to do today, we're about to do exactly that. So the HBCU we recognizing today is actually the youngest HBCU. I know, right? A young HBCU, but it's the youngest HBCU. It's also the only HBCU that isn't on the continental US. And the reason why is because it's to push out and to, be one of the leading forces of education when it comes to education in the Caribbean. That's right. Y'all should have known that. You know what I'm saying? That's right. It's the University of the Virgin Islands. I told you we was going worldwide and we spreading out a little bit to the islands. So we talked about Pan-Africanism. So hence UVI. The University of the Virgin Islands, or UVI, has 2 campus locations. The Albert A. Sheen campus on St. Croix, I hope I'm saying that right, my island people, and the St. Thomas campus, starting off as the College of Virgin Islands in 1961, with its only campus being on St. Thomas. In 1963, it then acquired the St. Croix campus in 1964, awarding its first bachelor degrees in 1970 and its first master's in 1976. UVI hit the ground running. Then UVI was granted the land grant status in 1972, which led to the creation of the Agricultural Experimental Station and a cooperative extension service, along with several other programs and facilities. And it's like a state-of-the-art facility spanning 2 whole islands, man. Then it wasn't until 1986, though, that the College of Virgin Islands became the University of Virgin Islands. And with that name also came the distinction of being recognized as an HBCU officially. Now, when it comes to like UVI alum, right, you think like, okay. I'm being told it's pronounced St. Croix. Croix. We gonna get somebody on the islands from like the Virgin Islands on here soon, so they can like chastise me about that. St. Croix. Got it. St. Croix. I hope I'm saying that right. Forgive me. And basically, right? So that right there is the St. Thomas campus right there. Bam. As well as the notable alum for UVI is Camille McHale, a renowned mathematician and the current provost of her alma mater, as well as Sylveria Jacobs, the current prime minister of Saint Martin. And then we have Sean Richards, who's a People's Action Movement politician in St. Kitts and Nevis. And we have Malik Sekou, who isn't a politician, but he's a political scientist, author, and academic, and the chair for UVI's Department of History, Social, and Political Science as well, along with several other notable politicians. That right there is our lovely UVI. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are wrapping things up officially. This show has been great from the jump, seeing all 5 people like Croix is Croix. So St. Croix. Yeah, y'all was getting on me, bro. Y'all was like Croix. Okay, Croix. It's French, my people, we was in America, so that OIX sort of messed us up a little bit, our Creole is Geechee. It's not like Creole, you know what I'm saying? So, but virtual hug, virtual high five, word to Shania, man, much love. But this has been a great show. It's been a great year working with CCIA, always pushing literature, always pushing that just affirmation of Black people, always pushing that love, cultural affirmation, and just that kinship in the virtual space, because we understand that COVID-19 has made a lot of us disconnected. A lot of people lost out on going to college. So this right here is just a sphere for us to be within the college space, as well as maintain that intellectual energy that we wanted from college, and we wanted from Black people who we're going to be in kinship with. So it is with very heavy, thankful heart that I send all of my love to everyone who's been on this show, who's been a part of Mbongi Goodfellas. That's the one I'm sticking with, also known as the Council of Scholars, who's just been out here with us from the jump. I'm very excited to see what we do coming into January 2021. I want everyone to stay safe as we finish up the year. It's been a heartfelt year. I don't want any more heartache coming from that. And when you're asked, will this live be saved? Absolutely it will. Once we finish recording, you can go to Clever Communities in Action at YouTube, and you can find all of our programming since we started doing 2015 Beyond, as well as other broadcasts as well. And yeah, we got all that. But I want to give a special shout out to everyone who's been on. Special shout out to Mr. Rodney, Miss Star, Mr. Lee, all the Virtual Village influence who've been riding with me, man. We had everybody there. Be sure to like and subscribe, as well as tell your friends about this. You know, we're going into the new year. We already spreading out. You know, what we doing now is just getting that HBCU family even bigger, man. I just want to say I love all y'all, man. Y'all be safe out here, and nothing but love, nothing but happiness for family. And with that, I'll see you guys in 2021. Ciao.